Welcome back to another episode of Ribs, Real Estate, and Rambling with your host, that's me, Roy May, with Bach Realty Group, brokered by Real. We are at Cooper's Old Time Pit Barbecue here in College Station. We're right off the bypass. I would highly recommend you stopping by next time you're in BCS. Come grab you some barbecue. It's
easy on and off.
Yes, and it's fantastic food. With me today is KBTX Max.
Yes,
that's
the Twitter handle.
That's his Twitter handle.
Yes,
Max Crawford. He is one of our weathermen here, and meteorologist. Really.
Either one's fine.
Either one's fine.
I take either.
Okay, fair enough.
Yeah.
He's one of our weather guys, and here in Brazos Valley, it's kind of unique, I think, because the TV personalities. You know, when you're in Houston and you're in bigger markets, and even sometimes in smaller towns. Mm-hmm. You know, the TV personalities aren't as engaging with the public. But I think it's really unique here how I feel everybody feels like the KBTX news team is kind of like always approachable.
Sure, good.
So
I'm glad to hear that.
So, and I know, like, I've bugged you before asking specifically about weather when, you know, just because I'm just bugging you for some reason.
Yeah, I was going to say, you're not the only one who's texted me like, hey, I got this thing. What's happening? And as long as it's within like 10 days or so, I can usually fulfill that request. But it's funny, I was having a conversation with my brother about this earlier. That is absolutely something that we take pride in. Like, we don't want to just be a stranger on TV. We want to be plugged into the community, and I think our team values that.
Well, and I also think, you know, even though this community obviously has grown and it's gotten so much bigger, I still think that it still has that intimate feel, you know, that we have in Aggieland, where we feel like we're all a little bit more friends than maybe we actually are.
Yeah.
But you know, there's less opposition to just kind of reaching out to people. So that's one of the things I love about this community.
Yeah, there's a common bond, you know, whether you went to the university or you just kind of drink the Kool-Aid, like everybody understands. It's like an unspoken understanding of like, we're all buds.
Well, and the people that aren't Aggies, and that's the thing. I think it's not that they're, you know, honorary Aggies. I think it's just how the community has evolved to what it has become.
Yeah.
You know, over the decades and decades of just how we emphasize being friendly here in the Brazos Valley and kind of do what we can for others. Hopefully, you know, on a regular basis.
Yeah. Exactly.
Okay, so I'm going to get going with some questions.
Cool.
And so I read a couple of interviews, you know, that you've done over the years, and I'm sure everybody asks you why weather, right? Because it's more of it's a unique, it's a little bit more unique job as opposed to just like I just want to go be a newscaster, or not that that's just want to, you know, it's still
sure.
I'm not banging on Rusty or anything. It's still, but it's very unique with meteorology and weather. And I read that you grew up, I believe, north of Dallas or in Dallas?
Right in the middle of the Metroplex.
Right in the middle, okay.
Flower Mound, Texas. Like, pretty much smack dab in the middle, like 10 minutes north of DFW.
Okay.
Without traffic.
or an hour and a half.
Right, yeah, exactly.
So it said that growing up, that there were some real severe storms that caused you to really start paying attention to the weather, and that from that kind of sparked that. But I read a couple different interviews, and I'm not sure, maybe they just worded it differently, you know, but was it just storms all the time, or was there one storm that you remember being so severe?
There was one. I couldn't like tell you the date and the specific time. I can tell you the specific place. We're at the Grapevine Mills Mall, and it was I would think I was like 7 or 8 years old, and it was, in the grand scheme of things, I don't think it was that huge of a storm, but we were on our way out of the mall. And the storm was rolling through, and like I can vividly remember the trees and like even a couple of like decorations outside like swaying in the wind, and then the rain started to fall, and the water from the rain just came like as a spray underneath the sliding doors and like into our faces. And I just remember like in that moment being like, oh my God, I'm terrified right now. And I think sure. And I think there was like there was some sort of warning that was issued that made us go like more in the center, because, you know, like a lot of malls have a lot of glass and stuff like that. So we tried to get to the center of the building or what have you. And my parents weren't there, and like this is before cell phones where I can like really call them and see what's going on or whatever. So it was just like a really traumatizing experience. And so from that point on, any other severe storm or any like day where there was rain possible, like I was tuned in. Like that was the only thing that I could focus on. I also have terrible ADHD, and like I have the hyper focusing kind of part of it where like that's the only thing I can think about the entire day, that type of deal. Actually, I had to go to therapy for it. Like that type that type of thing, like 9-10 years old, still like trying to figure this whole thing out, and watched it so much that eventually I just kind of grew to like it. Like I saw people like Troy Duncan and David Finfrock, the two people that I watched the most growing up, the two chiefs at two different stations there, who both had this very calming aura and presence, like in the midst of just terrible weather happening from one corner of the Metroplex to the other, and I was like, I want to do that.
So you were watching two broadcasts. Were you fact checking each other?
It was like, what does he say?
Be like, hey, hold on a second.
They were both educated enough that they were consistent. For
well,
sure.
you know, of all the things when it comes to news, I feel like the weather's got to be the least political. The weather is what the weather is. There's there's opinion on it because it is an inexact science.
Right.
Because especially in Texas, we know that, right? Mm-hmm. You know, you wake up in the morning and it's 58 degrees, and then it's going to be 94 later, and it's probably going to rain, and then it's going to ice tonight, and then tomorrow it's going to be like 72 and breezy, and it's a great day to play golf until about 12:30. Then,
Once my tee time is over, then the golf weather goes bad.
Yeah. I got to make sure I start scheduling when he's playing golf.
Right.
Okay, new dad.
Yes.
All right.
Man,
it's like the greatest, right? Having a kid.
I can't even begin to describe like how cool it is. And I mean, you know,
Christmas Day, right?
Christmas Eve.
Christmas Eve. Okay, I thought it was Christmas Day. Christmas
present came early. He was due in January, but
but everything's fine.
Yep. He's doing great right now. I keep.
How's mom?
She's doing great as well. She's doing better than I am because every
pretty standard with kids.
For sure. Every daycare bug that he seems to get and bring back to me seems to completely and wholly unaffect my wife, and I think it's because I'm a perennial man flu sufferer, and I'm willing to accept that. But like all of July, pretty much has been a little rough, and I think it's just stuff that he's bringing me. It's like a little hug of viruses, and it's wonderful. But that seriously, like, is so incredibly worth it. Like, especially at this point, every single day he seems to be learning something different and being a little bit more alert and more interactive. And he smiles all the time. And he's laughing all the time. Like, it's amazing.
They are little germ factories.
Yes,
I totally understand that. Yeah, no, and I don't know when that ends. My daughter's 18. I'm still not sure when that ends.
Sure,
but being a dad, it's like most people in my family on Christmas Eve, we open up pajamas. You get a kid.
Yeah, so, for real. And we again, another reason my wife is the best. She's already thinking like decades into the future of how are we going to make sure that he still feels important on his birthday. That's Christmas Eve. And we can still do Christmas and have the whole rest of the family still enjoy Christmas. And so she's already got plenty of ideas. So we'll make sure that he's taken care of. Because, you know, birthdays around holidays can sometimes...
Right.
You can feel a little overshadowed by the event, but...
Or the parents are overwhelmed.
Right. Yeah. Which that will happen no matter what, but she's on
yes.
Yeah.
Well, so we're relying on her as the rock.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes, exactly. I will be there for support.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
So one thing I wanted to bring up, and it's kind of unique, and I know it was, especially when it started, here in the Brazos Valley. Obviously, we have Texas A&M University. We also have Blinn. Mm-hmm. We have Blinn College. It's a junior college here, and it's a destination for obviously people trying to get to A&M. It's summer classes. Some people split dual enrollment. We always tell everybody engineering, if you're not taking your physics and calculus at Blinn, you're crazy. Not that it's super easy. I took it in the summer because I could take one class per session, and all I had to do was physics, and that's all I had to do.
And it was a smaller class size.
It's a smaller class. The ratio's better with the professor, and it's kind of like it's a part-time job for just one course. And I feel like I could have done any course with that kind of hyper focus. But you were part of the Blinn Team, and I saw an interview talking about how it's a great experience to be able to get your schoolwork done, and you're in the community. You're able to focus. You have that teacher to student ratio that's obviously different than university lecture halls. That's not a knock on any university. That's just kind of how this whole thing has become.
Yeah, absolutely.
What do you think the most important part of your time at Blinn was? Was it getting your academic head on straight, or was it adjusting to being a college student?
I guess both, but I think the academic head on straight. When you said that, I was like, oh yeah, that's probably got to be it. Because in high school, things still came relatively easy to me, but I was barely in the, okay, you got to study for this test. Like, I did not study hardly at all in high school, and then freshman year just like
punched in the face
real hard. Yeah. And fortunately, I was a Blinn teamer, and first of all, if that is an option, like, and somehow a roadblock in your way to getting into A&M, don't look at it like that, because
it's an opportunity, not a roadblock, right?
Exactly. It is such an amazing institution, and that partnership is really unparalleled. There are some other schools that do it. I know, Texas does that with UTSA and so on and so forth, but like, it is an absolutely amazing opportunity, and it's a little bit cheaper for a year or two. But anyway,
but you're also still here as a student. You get to,
exactly. You get all of the same. Yeah, you get a sports pass, like all that good stuff. And the professors that I had, I did not have one bad professor while I was there. Like, and I'm not going to say that I had any bad professors at A&M, but like, you know what I mean? Like, every professor that I had at Blinn, I could tell wanted me to succeed. From like comp and rhetoric English to history to my physics professors and things like that. Like, I could tell they wanted to be there, and they wanted me to be there, and they wanted me to succeed, which, by the way, you're totally right. Calculus and physics in the summer, though that kind of makes for not as cool of a summer, is definitely the way to do it.
No, you're not there for 10 hours a day.
Yeah, exactly.
Just suck it up and go. And
just do some derivatives and do some integrals at 7 o'clock at night on a Wednesday in July. There's nothing more fun than that. What else are you doing anyway?
But the town is half empty, so when you have those evenings where you're not having to do functions and use your calculator, you're at the Dixie Chicken.
I love the buzz around August when people show up, but this time right now, like, go try the new restaurant that you haven't had in a while, or like go to Gringos or something that's like always packed. Like, you don't have to put your name on the wait list or anything like that.
The students are what make this town. Obviously, College Station, it's centered around the university. It's a massive university, so its impact directly and indirectly on the economy and everything is big. And so we understand that. But for those of us that live here, it is really nice sometimes to not be stuck in traffic at 1:30 in the afternoon on a Tuesday on Welburn.
It's like right around 4th of July, a little bit after, and Christmas time. Just the best.
Well, and see, I have found that in June, so the students all leave, gone. The last graduation party is finished and they're gone. Right. But that's my time to still sit back, because all the other residents are rushing to all the new restaurants, and so I know there's still going to be a wait. So you really kind of have to get to July 4th. Finish lighting the sparklers, and then it's time to start processing all the new things in town that have opened in the last 6 to 9 months. Okay, so going back to meteorology and in your schooling, I believe it was your senior year, you interned at KBTX as a weather, right?
Yeah.
So who was there at the time, and how involved was that internship? Was it just a summer internship, or so?
So it was, when I got there as an intern, they had just started the entire newsroom and studio rebuild that more or less looks like what it looks like right now, and so there was a lot of stuff going on. But it was still very involved and very helpful. It was Bob French, Kaylee Carey, and Shel Winkley were the three that I.
How old is Shel? I'm just kidding.
he's I know because he's exactly 5 months younger than my brother, so he's about 5.5 years older than me. We'll just leave it at that, because I don't want to show my age either.
We'll get to that later.
But yeah, it was Bob in the afternoons, and then sometimes I would come in the mornings and shadow Shel. And then towards the end of my career at college, when Shel became chief, for whatever reason, and he'll say this more than anybody, I don't know why he decided that this is one of the guys that I'm going to try to get into this career path, he was always like, hey, when are you coming in next to practice? Things like that. And I mean, he does great. Yeah, absolutely. And he's a great mentor to so many students. Like, he is the reason that so many Aggies are in the field of broadcast meteorology. But I like to kind of say that I was one of his first true interns that at least came back while he was chief. Like, kind of got to see him as a leader, and he knocked it out of the park from the get go, and is still doing that, obviously. But it's very interesting the first time, just like hopping on the green screen. Mm-hmm. You don't have a teleprompter. You've always thought about, like, this is kind of how I would do it. You watch other local news stuff. If you're in it for a while, you become a local news nut. You just want to see how other people do it, but you don't know what to say. you get there, and you look at the camera, and there's like right underneath the camera is you. It's a picture of you with the graphics that you can see. The green wall's right behind you, and it's just you.
So you look and make sure you're pointing in the right place, right?
Yeah, exactly. And I remember Bob, the first day that I got up there, I stood there, and it must have only been like 15, 20 seconds, but it felt like an eternity. I was just sitting there staring at the camera, and he goes, "Go ahead." I'm like, I don't know how to start. And he was like, "How about good afternoon?" Like, genius! Good afternoon. And then just kind of stared at the camera again. So, I mean, obviously, that was the worst.
To a roaring success, just blazing out of the gates.
Yeah. And, obviously it gets a little better from that point, but you kind of just get used to the fact that you're essentially just talking to yourself. You're having a conversation with yourself. Like, there are other people in the studio, and obviously there are people watching, but you don't really think about that. Even when you're doing, like, a live shot out in the field, you don't particularly think about all the people who are watching. And I feel like if you did, that would just make you more nervous.
The very first time I was on camera for any sort of news shot was when I was a young soldier and I was on the tomb. And I remember the first time I looked in the camera and I'm just sitting there going, this is gonna be awful.
Yeah.
I don't know what, I think I know what he's gonna ask me, and I still
black out a little bit, just like at the end of it, you're like, what did I even just say?
The tunnel vision, and like you have no idea what's happening, and all of a sudden it's over, and then I look back and laugh so much about it now because I have no problem being in front of a camera.
Sure, of course.
Stand in front of 50,000 people.
Yeah, done it with us a few times. Yeah.
So It's funny looking back, and that just kind of shocked thing. This is completely random. You were talking about the green screen. I saw on Twitter today there was some meteorologist, a broadcast meteorologist. I like that term. And he was working on his graphic, and it's 100 million degrees in Dallas. Did you see that one?
Yeah,
today?
And that was Pete up in DFW.
And it clicks over, and one of the graphics, and it's like 107 here and 107 in downtown Dallas. And it's 101,115 degrees in McKinney. He's like, everybody in McKinney's dead. And
then just stares at the camera for like a split half second, and it's
he just rolled with it. It was just it was so perfectly seamless. It was like he had scripted it, but that he had, because he's running across. He goes, "Oh, everyone in McKinney's dead."
Right. And then just onward to the next.
I feel like that's going to be some of the more fun moments where something on your graphic goes wrong. Is it an input error? Is it a system translation error?
It kind of depends.
Because I feel like the meteorologists get it so many times.
Right. Yeah. A lot of times it's user error. Sometimes it's just the system messing up.
I feel like 101,000 degrees is not a user error.
It is. Yeah, I wouldn't think so. I would have to think that was some sort of system thing, unless they were putting in the numbers. And like you hit tab to go to the next city or whatever, and they just forgot to do that and just put in another round of numbers. Because if you think about it, 105 and then 106, it was like 101,107 or something. So that could have been how it happened. I don't know, but honestly,
I lost it.
It's moments like that in live TV. I don't want to say that make it worth it, but that shows your person exactly.
It's so fun.
And like as long as there's not something remarkably dreadful going on, or there's not like a big breaking severe weather story or something. Like,
don't crack a joke in the wrong situation.
Right? Yeah, exactly.
But
just roll with it.
It wasn't in fact 101,000 degrees in McKinney, so you can
confirm that. Yes,
McKinney has been scorched off the face of the earth.
Right.
So you go from your internship and you graduate and you go to Midland, correct?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And I wrote it down to kind of get a feel for this. Really, the Midland misery would be, I guess, how I would put it. And I want you to talk a little bit about, again, the challenges of really kind of cutting your teeth at your first job. But then also, I saw that you said in an interview at some point, and I'm sure I'm going to mess his name up, Tom Teffertiller?
Teffertiller.
Teffertiller,
yeah.
okay. And you had mentioned, kind of referenced how important he is, and you called him legendary.
Yeah.
And so, kind of tell me about the dichotomy of being in Midland and having to do it out in Midland, which I know is tough, and on top of just being tough because it's your first job, and you're trying to get everything right, and then the pressures of that. But, balanced against having that kind of person as a mentor and a trainer.
If you were in Midland, there are a couple of lifers there. Like, there are people who were born and raised in Midland, Odessa.
Honey, I'm from Odessa. Yeah. It's in Odessa.
Right. Who work at other stations there. And Tom's actually at our parent company station there now. He's at the CBS affiliate, so we're
still out there.
Yeah, exactly. And he had been there since I think 89 was maybe 90, 91, something like that. Like, he had been there for decades by the time I got there. And he had a reputation similar to Shell of just like churning out different meteorologists. And he understood that a lot of people would go there and that's not going to be their first stop, but he would take you under his wing, would kind of show you how it's done, would get you to go out to different events and things like that, get involved in the community and try to make the best of the time that you were there while he had you there. But he was another one of those very calm, cool, collected dudes who, during severe weather, it's like, it's okay, Tom's on this. Like, we're safe, we're good.
I'm informed.
Not worried about Tom. And he also still, while being that guy, had because I think this is a very, very important quality for a lot of chiefs. And some managers won't let you do this, but he had a really good ability to be able to take a step back in some situations and say, I'm going to let the kid do this. And so Memorial Day weekend of 14, there was a tornado outbreak in West Texas, and he had kind of covered the couple of days before and was like, I'm going to let you do this day.
Oh, wow.
And so my first day of severe weather coverage where I had kind of soloed it, he was behind the scenes and helping me, was about 4 hours long of different tornado-warned storms, and he just kind of let me do it. Like, he was always there, and
to support, but
it's
kind of let the training wheels off, let go of the seat, and let the kid ride the bike.
Yeah, exactly. And he made that whole part of the journey for me so much easier, because when I first got to Midland, I did not know a soul, and it was a lot of. I had weird weekends because I was the weekend meteorologist, and so my days off were Monday and Tuesday. And so the only real friends that I had that I would talk to all the time were a couple of buddies of mine who were still not employed yet after graduation. And so we would just play Xbox.
They had Mondays and Tuesdays off too.
Yeah, they happened to, yes. And so we would just play Xbox and just do stuff like that. And Sunday nights after the Sunday evening show, I would go to this Albertsons that was right by my apartment. And I had made a really bad habit of buying a six-pack, because they did the make-your-own six-pack, and some chips and guac or chips and queso or something like that.
Cornerstone of nutritious diet.
Exactly. That was how I would wrap up my week. And it was always the same cashier. And she happened to be an avid watcher of News West 9. And we got to be friends, because she was like, oh, it's the usual tonight. Like, oh, you went with this beer tonight, that kind of thing. So, yeah. That was the first couple of months there, and then I was able to make some friends.
The true highlights of Midland, Odessa.
And man, not to go off on too much of a tangent, but it's so important for folks who start out in TV to go to a market like that, because you find other people there who are also, I don't want to say miserable, but they know they don't want to stay there, and you can bond in that way. And so there's no San Diego, Anchorman, we're going to all brawl in the street kind of thing. The Friday and Saturday nights after the shows, all the people from the different stations, at least the younger people, would all meet up and go grab drinks. And
it's bond,
absolutely.
It's bonding with shared adversity kind of thing. Yeah. We talk about that in the Army all the time.
Yeah, and those buddies, in fact, later in August, I'm going to San Diego, because we every single year
then have an Anchorman brawl.
Yeah, exactly. I didn't even realize that. But yeah, we need to do that and set that up. But those are friends that a bond is forged there that you're going to have for a lifetime.
I can only imagine that the mentorship that you get from Shell, the relationship y'all have kind of built, and Shell's one of those guys where, because we are still, you think of it maybe not obviously one of the bigger markets,
sure,
and because we get to know our news team, right?
Yeah.
It'd be a shame if Shell ever goes, because you figure, would you achieve? Your next step is to a bigger market, I would assume.
Yeah,
so,
a lot of times.
So I'm kind of hoping you guys stick together. I love y'all's weather team, kind of how y'all all work together as well, and how you and Shell act like total children on Twitter. So last question, and this is one that I ask every single one of my guests. You've got the president or some foreign dignitaries coming to your house, and you have got to cook him ribs. So they've got to be the best ribs that you do, however you do it. And again, I can't seem to find anybody who does ribs apparently, or barbecue in general. So just give us your best. Like, if you're going to do ribs, how are you going to do them? And if you can't do ribs, like, are you the guy that brings a side to the barbecue, and what's your go-to?
So I'll answer yes to that. I'm the one who brings a side.
No
but
ribs.
No. If I have to make this dude ribs, I'm calling my brother, and I'm saying, hey, I'll get you a 12-pack and some whiskey or whatever you want. We need to cook some ribs because he and my dad both are very good at smoking meats, from brisket, pork butt, ribs, all that stuff. And it got to a point where they're both so good at it that I don't even really try anymore. And so I think eventually, like, maybe, especially like when I go on in my dad years, maybe I'll give it my own shot.
Start picking it up.
Yeah, but especially brisket's so expensive right now. So I don't want to ruin. But anyway. Yes, I'm calling him and I'm telling him I've got materials for you. Let's make this happen. But I'm also making queso. I am confident that I can make somebody like my queso for sure. Okay,
queso's a new one. Yes. But queso and barbecue, not a crazy combination. Right? Well, liquid cheese with anything is not
exactly
always a good idea.
Right.
In any form. All right. Well, Shell. Woo, nah. No, but I do appreciate. I kind of wanted to get into a relationship with Shell, but I feel like that could be a whole other episode, right?
Yeah, it could be. We like airing our grievances out in public.
The other catch is, I feel like we can get most of it just from y'all's Twitter replies.
Right? Yeah, that's us. That's us on a.
Y'all seem just like really tight brothers, like truly like blood brothers. That's how y'all act. It's got to be great to kind of be in that environment. But
Max, that Freudian slip. You remember that time that we were talking on the phone one time and I called you Ray? You've forgotten that, man, and I just brought it up.
See, that stuff. It's a 3-letter name, and people continue so it just I don't even hear it.
The amount of times that people call me Matt or Shell, or back when the Ninkies were here, Josh. I've been called Clay before. Clay Falls. It happens.
Yeah, it's Roy. It's 3 letters. I don't know.
Right.
But hey, thanks so much for coming out.
Of course, it was my pleasure.
So again, right before we go, I'm going to give you about 15, 30 seconds. You can look dead in the camera if you have any charity events coming up or anything else you'd like to promote. This is kind of your time to take a look in the camera and fire away.
That's the only thing, man. Follow me on all the social medias, I suppose, and I'll try to keep you entertained and informed. But the big thing, we have our campaign kickoff for the United Way of the Brazos Valley on August 18th. We have put a lot of effort into making it a super fun event. And we would love to have you out there. It goes to a great cause. You'll get to hear about the over 30 partner organizations that we help to get fundraise for throughout the year. I'm the campaign chair again for the second year, and it's an interesting time for nonprofits right now. The campaign funding deal is a little bit more challenging, but there's new challenges all the time, especially since about 2020. Which is when I joined the board, but yeah, it's an interesting time. But
it's coming up.
Yeah, August 18th on a Friday, and every time the Brazos Valley is asked, they deliver, and then some. So I'm very much looking forward to it. So join us, and we'll have a great time.
It's a great community. That's why this show is easy to do, because we have so many great people doing great things. So thanks again. So coming to you from Cooper's Aggieland. Thank y'all so much. We'll see y'all next time. Thank you.